Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are for educative purpose. Today we are going to discuss on one of the another very interesting topic which is very frequently asked to you in your oral, also in your theory exam, and it is one of the very important finding which you should examine in any particular person. We call vital signs, and one of the vital signs is respiration. So today we are going to discuss on respiration, what you examine as a vital sign in respiration. You can go through previous lectures, other lectures on temperature, pulse, blood pressure, etc. in vital signs. You know, respiration is consisting of two phases. We call inspiration and expiration. It is also called as inhalation and exhalation. During inspiration, you inspire air which rushes into lungs, into alveoli, and at the level of alveoli, there is an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen is taken inside and carbon dioxide is exhaled out. During expiration, or we call exhalation, the air is thrown out because of contraction of diaphragm and intercostal muscles. You get inspiration. The diaphragm moves down, ribs becomes horizontal. So thoracic cage volume increases. There is a negative pressure. Hence the atmospheric air is sucked inside. And during expiration, there is a relaxation of diaphragm. Diaphragm moves up. There is a relaxation of intercostal muscles. The ribs comes back to original, and there is a positive pressure from outside which forces the air from lung to move out. In respiration, we look for rate, we look for type of respiration and rhythm. In rhythm, whether it is regular, irregular, then we look at the inspiratory phase, expiratory phase, and in respiratory movement, we look at the depth of respiration, whether there is increased depth or decreased depth. If there is any traumatic injury, look for flail chest. Is there any signs of respiratory distress? Is accessory muscle of respiration working? And if you can listen to the sound like wheeze, stridor, whoop, and if there is an signs like cyanosis, we'll be going through one by one. When you want to count respiratory rate, you have to count in 1 minute how many times the chest expands. It should be counted in 60 seconds, not for 30 seconds multiplied by 2. Ideally, it should be calculated for entire minute rather than calculating for 15 seconds and multiply by 4 or calculating in 30 seconds and multiply by 2. It should not be done. So you calculate the respiratory rate, and we know respiratory rate is between 14 to 20. More than 24 is considered as tachypnea. Less than 14 is considered as bradypnea. Respiratory rate can change because of exercise, anxiety, etc. Those points should be considered. We'll be considering this respiratory rate in more detail when we talk respiratory system. Ideally, while examining even a respiratory rate, you should wash your hand, put on the gloves, privacy should be provided, person should be comfortable and relaxed position. Position of the patient should be proper so that you can look at the respiratory movements, inspiration as well as expiration. Place the patient arm or your own hand in a relaxed position across the stomach or lower part of the chest so that you can feel for the respiratory movement, and always observe complete respiratory cycle, that is inspiration as well as expiration, and then you count the respiration. So one inspiration followed by an expiration is one respiration. As far as possible, never count in 30 seconds and multiply by 2. That is a wrong method. Count for 60 seconds. Count in a 60 second how many times the chest expand. If there is an irregular respiration, then you should notice how it is irregular. It is regularly irregular or irregularly irregular. Regularly irregular you will find in Cheyne-Stokes breathing, and absolutely irregular in case of a Bird's breathing. If the rate is markedly increased, we call that as tachypnea, and if rate is markedly reduced, we call that as a bradypnea. All this information should be on record, so it should be recorded, and after finishing that, remove the gloves, wash the hand, and put all your observation in documents and communicate with the nurse or the person in charge. There are good number of factors which will affect the respiratory rate, like age, sex, activity level. It will increase with exercise. Certain positions, certain drugs can aggravate. Emotions, even respiratory rate will increase with elevated temperature, we call fever, or we call hyperpyrexia. If a person is sick, then also respiratory rate may increase. So there are a lot of factors which will increase your respiratory rate. All those factors should be kept in mind. Normal respiratory rate, we have told you that it is between, some people consider from 12 to 20, some people say from 14 to 20. So any respiratory rate will be little different at a different age. We usually consider in adult that is between 12 to 20, or we averagely say between 15 to 20. The upper limit is considered as 24. So more than 24 is considered as tachypnea. Less than 10 is considered as bradypnea. And if there is no respiratory effort for a long period, we call that as apnea. If the depth of ventilation is less, we call hypoventilation. If the depth is more, we call hyperventilation. And if there is an irregular breathing, but at a regular interval, we call Cheyne-Stokes breathing. And if it is absolutely irregular, there are one or two efforts as far as respiration is concerned, and there is a irregular pauses of apnea. It is very classical in case of a Bird's breathing. While observing for the respiratory movement, also you should look at whether it is abdominal or thoracic. Good number of time we never mention regarding that in oral exams, but in female it is more thoracic than abdominal, and in male it is more abdominal than thoracic. It does not give you any particular interpretation, but sometime it may be of some help. Usually in a person who has got tachypnea, the depth also increases, and in case of bradypnea, depth usually decreases. But if there is a marked increase in the depth as well as rate and depth, then we call hyperapnea and tachypnea. And whenever you get a hyperapnea with tachypnea, it is very classical in case of what we call as a Kussmaul's breathing, which is good number of times classical in case of a diabetic ketoacidosis. So all these things should be kept in mind, which can be helpful to you during your oral exams. So bradypnea means respiratory rate less than 12, ideally we say less than 10, which will be seen in a good number of conditions. We are not going into detail at present. We'll be discussing more in detail when we do respiratory system examination. Tachypnea means respiratory rate more than 25. Some of the common conditions like fever, anxiety, hypoxia, after exercise, ketoacidosis, hyperpyrexia, hysterical individual, etc. While bradypnea will be very commonly seen where the respiratory center is depressed or person is going in respiratory failure. So carbon dioxide narcosis, damage to respiratory center, narcotics, raised intracranial pressure, mixed edema, etc. And apnea means total absence of respiration, which is a classical sign in a respiratory arrest. Death, it is very frequently seen in case of Barrett's breathing. It is seen as a regular interval of apneic phases in Cheyne-Stokes breathing. In Kussmaul's breathing, after a long period, you can have a little short phases of apnea, and in hysterical individual also you will see in between the phases of apnea. This is a diagram which will be also showing you in a respiratory system examination. When you get a normal depth and normal inspiration and expiratory phase, rate is normal, we call it a eupnea, eupnea. If the rate increases, depth does not increases, then we call it the tachypnea, which is very characteristic in case of fever, anxiety, exercise, etc. If the rate becomes less, depth remains normal, we call it a bradypnea. If there is no respiratory effort, absence of breathing, we call it apnea. If the depth increases with normal rate, we call hyperapnea. And in a Cheyne-Stokes breathing, there will be slowly the depth will increase, and then there will be a phase of apnea, followed by again similar phases. We call it a Cheyne-Stokes breathing, which is very characteristic in a raised intracranial pressure, also in a case of a brainstem injury. While Barrett's breathing is 1 or 2 gasps of respiration, followed by irregular periods of apnea, which is a sign of head injury, meningitis, and other CNS damage. Kussmaul's breathing is rate has increased, depth has also increased. So it is increase in depth as well as rate. We call tachypnea with hyperapnea. Tachypnea means rate, hyperapnea is depth, which is very characteristic in a diabetic ketoacidosis and other conditions which produces metabolic acidosis. There is one variety of breathing which is being described is called apneustic breathing, where there is a prolonged inspiratory phase with a short expiratory phase, and there is also increase in the rate. This is very characteristic in a case of a brainstem lesions. So these are the different varieties of different types of respiration which you can see sometime. Now if you are comparing inspiratory phase and expiratory phase, we'll be showing you in a second diagrams. These are all those what we have shown you before: bradypnea, tachypnea, hyperventilation, or we call as a hyperapnea, hypoventilation or hypopnea, then Cheyne-Stokes breathing, Kussmaul's breathing, Barrett's breathing, ataxic breathing, etc. This is classical of Cheyne-Stokes breathing. This is ataxic breathing. This is apneustic breathing. Normally, both chest and abdomen rises during inspiration. There will be paradoxical respiratory movements during inspiration, and chest rises and abdomen collapses. This is called respiratory alternance. Very rare, almost it suggests that there is an impending muscle fatigue. Normally we use the word abdominal and thoracic breathing. If abdomen is moving more during inspiration and expiration, that is called abdominal breathing, which is more common in male, while thoracic is more commonly seen in female. Nothing significant. So it does not give you any idea regarding any specific disorders. But if you look at the inspiratory phase and expiratory phase in a normal person, always inspiration is longer than expiration. But if there is a prolonged inspiration and there is a short expiration, this is very commonly seen in an inspiratory obstruction, or we call laryngeal obstruction, like CA larynx, laryngitis, foreign body in the larynx, laryngeal edema, etc. And during this particular, because there is a laryngeal obstruction, it will produce a typical sound we call as a stridor, like this. Typical sound will be heard during inspiratory phase. We call that as a stridor. But if expiratory phase is markedly prolonged, it is longer than inspiration. Normally, always expiration is a short, it is a passive, while inspiration is an active process. It will be seen during obstructive pathophysiology. Classical example, COPD, bronchial asthma, emphysema. In this particular condition, you will have a prolonged expiration. If a person has got severe obstruction, and during that particular period, person has to make an additional effort, we call accessory muscle of respiration are working, like ala nasi. So you will see the movement of the nasal part. Sternocleidomastoid will be active. We call accessory muscle of respiration are working and prominent. In a normal person, these are not prominent. So if you see nasal flaring, intercostal muscle retraction, accessory muscle prominent and working, there is a pursed lip breathing, there is a disrupted speech, and there is a thoraco-abdominal dissociation. These are the signs of what we call as respiratory distress. So whenever you see certain muscles, particularly sternocleidomastoid, platysma, etc., are prominent and working, there is a retraction of intercostal space, it is a sign of respiratory distress. So look at the ala nasi and sternocleidomastoid prominence during respiratory movement. Along with that, good number of time you will get cyanosis, and diaphragm movement will be paradoxical in opposite direction during inspiration. These are all the signs of respiratory distress. During inspiratory phase, if you get a sound that is classical, we call as a stridor. We call laryngeal stridor, or tracheal obstruction also can produce that typical sound. During obstructive sleep apnea phase, when a person is sleeping, you get that snoring sound or flutter sound, which is because of the movement of the soft palate. That is characteristic in obstructive sleep apnea. While wheeze is during expiration. There is a prolonged expiration, and during that expiratory phase you get certain sounds which are very frequently on auscultation we describe as a rhonchi. Together, prolonged expiration with rhonchi, we call that as a wheeze. These are some of the sounds which will be easily audible. You don't require even a stethoscope. So look for those particular sounds. Ideally, all these sounds, vesicular breathing, bronchial breathing, we'll be discussing in detail during our respiratory system examination. We know vesicular breathing is a normal, while bronchial breathing is usually abnormal, and it is very characteristic of consolidation, patent bronchus with thin superficial big cavity, or a big mass in a close contact with a bronchus. Superficial big mass. All those conditions can produce bronchial breathing. Some of the sounds like wheeze, stridor, crackles. Now we always use the word crackles rather than ralls or crepitations. All these things in detail we'll be discussing during respiratory system auscultation. So these are some of the things which we go through very rapidly during a respiratory system examination as a vital sign. So I hope this particular portion will be useful to you. I feel this will be very frequently asked to you in your oral. Also, it can be asked in your theory exams. And in your everyday practice, you will be examining respiration as a vital sign. And you should be aware of all this terminology, etc., what you should examine in a respiration. So I end my lecture here. I hope this lecture will be helpful. If you like this lecture, please press button like and subscribe, share with your friends, press bell icon so that you can get a bell icon during when I upload a new videos. I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. And I feel this lecture will be very helpful to you in your exams.